I'm Womack Senior, because my eldest son works with me, and I've been making dry suits as Otter for more than 20 years now. I got into it because I was doing a few repairs, and people liked the repairs and said, could I do them? And then the repairs got bigger and bigger till I actually thought I could make a dry suit, which I did. My first dry suit I made for my youngest son, Paul, it actually fit me, but it was dry. And we moved forward from then, and we've made over 50,000 dry suits now. You need a dry suit because in our climate and our water conditions, it keeps you warm and away from any polluted waters, and just makes it almost like continental diving in a warmer water, because you're in your own little environment. More than 50% of production of Otter dry suits we export, and we export to the latest one this year. We're selling quite a lot to is Russia, but everywhere in the world, the continent, Australia, New Zealand, America, and anywhere where not necessarily need it for the warmth, but sometimes need it for environmental protection from chemicals or things. There's really only two types of dry suit. There is membrane. This is made from some form of cloth. In the early days it used to be like a twill. Nowadays it tends to be trilaminate. And then there is neoprene. And neoprene is like a wetsuit with seals on, and the actual seams are made so that water can't penetrate. And they have a seal on the neck and the wrist. And both types have a special waterproof zip. Buying a dry suit is quite easy, providing you're a standard size. There's lots of different dry suits about. I've tried to make dry suits not for customers but for me. So when I'm making the sizes, I've made what you might call popular sizes, and then we have an old-fashioned means of doing made-to-measures. We still use cardboard patterns, so if somebody doesn't fit a standard suit, we can put the cardboard pattern on the cloth and make it taller or wider. And obviously if somebody is not of a standard size, and people are getting really, I forgot what the word, bigger nowadays than they were 20 years ago. We sell almost no medium suits now. They tend to be large, extra large, 4 or 5 extra large. Then sometimes you need this special service to have one specially for you. You would expect the price to fall into a cheap category for the Chinese suits, which tend to be cheap and cheerful but not always particularly dry. For a good quality dry suit, you would expect it to start at £500 to £600, but it would also include the valves that go in the dry suit, and the valves and hose in the cell are £100. So if you're having this special service, then you would also expect to pay extra, maybe £100 or up to £150 to have the suit specially made. All dry suits need some form of valve. Otherwise, as you descend in the water, the air that's in the suit compresses and you end up with what we call squeezers. And so we have a hose to your main tank where we can press a valve which puts a little bit of air into the suit, which pushes the suit away from your body. And as you go deeper, you can keep popping a little bit more air in to stop, they call it squeezers. And the suit actually tries to get hold of you. And if you have a good undersuit with a nice surface that matches, then you get creases in your top suit, but in the crease is not you, it just slides on the undersuit. And as you start coming up, then this air that you've pumped in starts expanding, and if you didn't release it, you would end on the top like a big sausage, So there is two sorts of valves. There is one you can have in your wrist, which is they used to call a drager from the days when they used to fit them in survival suits in hoods and ankles, but now it's just called a cuff dump, and it's just a piece of rubber diaphragm in a housing, and it just works by putting your hand in the air, and excess air will flow through it. If you want more air in your suit, you keep your hand down. But then we have an automatic one that fits here on the bicep. And that one usually is adjustable, so you can, it's same as the cuff dump but with a spring on but bigger, and you can tighten it or slacken it. So normally you would run it with the least spring pressure on. So as you're coming up, water bubbles out automatically. But once you hit the surface and everything is okay and you've blown your BCD up, you would then turn it to surface mode, and put some air in your suit, which will then lift your air in the water, surmising the boat's a long way off, and then it makes it easier to float and keeps you higher out of the water. If you're wanting to look after the dry suit and really care for it, then it's part of saving your life, so you do need to keep in mind that seawater is corrosive. So if you're diving in seawater, then you need to wash the valves in fresh water, make sure they're nice and clean. You also maybe need to give them a squirt of something every so often, but not silicone, because the diaphragms that's inside the actual valves themselves are usually made from silicone. So normally if you're going to put anything in, you just give it a squirt of, I would think probably WD-40 or something like this. Not often, only if you're, say, leaving it, and this will keep everything free. The shoulder dump really you should just leave alone. The only problems we've had with shoulder dumps is on when we get a nice sunny day, which isn't so often nowadays, and people take their undersuit off and throw it in the grass and then put everything on, and a piece of straw or hay will go through, try and get through the valve, which then holds the diaphragm open. So then when you jump in, you get wet through. So you need to make sure that if you're laying your dry suit and your undersuit out on a nice grassy bank in the sun, that you make sure there's no grass or air left on the suit as you put it in. But the suit itself, if it's been dived in seawater, needs a wash with fresh water. If you're leaving it for the winter, then you make sure the suit's really dry, and talc all the seals with non-scented talc, aqua powder or baby powder, something with no scent in. To keep drying a dry suit sounds easy, just buy a dry suit and go diving, but it's not strictly true, because dry suits is not an exact science. And we have had where we've sold somebody a suit, made to measure, everything perfect, wet. Usually we let them get wet maybe twice, 3 times max, and then we make them a new suit. The new suit's identical to the old suit, lovely and dry. The customers are delighted. If you get the proper fit and everything works good, then you can dive with your dicky bow on, you like James Bond, and you should come up a little sweaty maybe, but perfectly dry. But as I say, it's not an exact science. If you're going to dive a dry suit for the first time, then a dedicated dry suit course would be really what you need. It's quite a folly to jump straight in. The first thing that will happen is your legs will pop up to the top and your fins will pop off. So if you do some training on one of the dedicated dry suit courses, then they would normally weight you correctly, because if you're not correctly weighted, you can't get down. And if you have too much weight on, you have to pump too much air in the suit to keep buoyant. This air moves about and you end up like a concertina, so you definitely need the training. If we're making a neoprene dry suit, then the actual material is the same material that wetsuits are made from. It's just sheet neoprene, which is a form of rubber with nitrogen bubbles in it. And what we do is we cut it to the shape we need, and then it goes into production, and the chaps in production give the edges 2 coats of glue, each side that needs going together, and then literally push it together. The suit becomes one suit, the seals and everything are fitted, and then it's passed to the girls who sew it. If you don't sew it, the actual seam's not strong at all. You can tear it, because neoprene is not strong, just tears apart. So it's the sewing on the outside which sews the nylon together. So in effect, it makes the outside nylon one suit, and the glue makes the waterproof bit in the middle, and then they have nylon on the inside, which can be sewn or taped. And depending on the type of suit, it depends whether we tape or whether we sew. It's dependent on the material. If you get a taped seam on the inside, then it can leak through the seam and track up the tape. And when you test it, you're not quite sure where it leaks. You just know it comes out at a point. But if you have a sewn suit, where it comes out on the outside, where it goes in on the inside normally. So a sew and sew is a positive suit. But if you go into thinner material to make it, then you can't sew it inside, because the 2 stitches would meet. So you would tape every seam by hand with rubber tape. And same with the seals, you would normally glue the seals and If it's a neoprene seal, you can sew it on because it has nylon on the outside. If it's a latex seal, then you would normally glue in place and tape in place. And yeah, but you need to also make them so that you can change them if they wear out or they get damaged. So you have to make them good enough to hold together, but not so robust that you can't mend them at a later stage. This is one of the later neoprene boots, what we call a 008. It's rubber on the outside and it's neoprene lined with a thermal efficient lining, and it's got a nice heavy sole. This is what we'd normally fit to a membrane boot, and the membrane material would fit around there to slide up inside, and then we would tape this. But this wouldn't fit a neoprene suit. What we have to do is modify it, and how we modify it is by the same boot, we cut it a little shorter, and then what we do is we make a circle of neoprene, the same as the suit that we're fitting it to, and then we tape it on like you see there. That allows us then to stick neoprene to the suit and butt end it, and then the girls can just sew it around here so it becomes part of the suit. And so it allows us for one style of boot to do two style of suits. And the boot is quite an important part of the suit, because obviously you're walking about, it has to fit your fin, and just has to be comfortable like a pair of slippers. And we have a little piece on the back here which stops the fin strap dropping down. There we have, we call that a 009. Now this is a new concept. This one, on the bottom of the suit, we actually make a sock out of neoprene, and we then put this on like we would the other boot, just glue the membrane suit around here, or if it's a neoprene suit we can end buck it and sew it. But that gives us a nice soft sock, which is good for travelling with. Also, if you had this hung up in a shop, it would fit more people. It would fit probably from a size 8 to a size 10 in one fit, where on a normal boot you would have to have quite a number of sizes. The other advantage is if you put the rock boot round it, and this is our Otter style of rock boot with the Velcro straps. It's got a nice heavy sole, it's easy to wear. It also clamps the whole thing hard to your feet, so if you end up upside down, it doesn't expand this like a balloon and bring you up feet first. This would keep the air out of your feet, and it's especially useful for ladies with small feet, this type of system. We also test every suit for leaks. This is how we pressure test the suits. We normally blow them up to 30 or 40 centimetres of water pressure, and they have to stand like this for really overnight, which is in excess of 12 hours. And it's quite hard, and occasionally we'll get one that doesn't quite make the grade and ends up sinking to the floor, and then we take it for a water pressure test, but we'll still have to come back here to get this.